Warm welcome, everyone, to the Sephirah Center of Shamanism. My name is Luke, experienced practitioner and mentor of the shamanic and occult sciences. On this channel, we break down all things relating to the ancient shamanic and occult technologies, bring them into balance with the modern psychology and deep psyche. Before I go into this video, I highly recommend checking out my Patreon, which has only been launched for about a week or so, but already has lots of exclusive content relating to the deeper esoteric practices of shamanism and the occult. New content is uploaded multiple times per week, and at just £15.50 a month, you will gain access to lots of advanced shamanic and occult techniques, technologies, and initiations, as well as an optional tier to opt in for the monthly adversarial gateway initiation, which is an initiation via the current of Satan into the realms of dark matter and the deep unconscious. Link is in the description. So on to today's video, which is black magic. We're going to be delving in to what black magic actually is, free from the illusions and ego traps that are behind it. We're going to be looking at the specific illusions that are behind black magic and the specific ego traps that you do need to be aware of if you want to engage in this type of practice. But more importantly, we're going to be delving into how black magic is actually a powerful alchemical technology for your soul and can help you to grow towards your truth and authenticity in a much more effective and powerful way than any other current of energy can. This is going to be a very powerful message in this video today for anybody who is interested in the darker celestial alchemies. So without further ado, stay tuned. Okay, black magic. Absolutely fascinating concept, and one that seems to have the perfect balance between being extremely seductive, pulling in a lot of people who are very allured by it, and completely repelling certain communities as well. What I've observed is that this subject has the majority of people that view it from the love and light perspective or the white magical perspective, which is that black magic is something to be removed and it's the force of all evil and things like that. That's how the majority of people within our modern world at this current time view black magic. You then have the darker aspects of the occult, the dark occult community, which understand that black magic is not purely evil, but many of which get caught in the ego traps of this practice from the perspective of approaching it from a traumatized space, from a fragmented space. Many people who approach black magic are approaching it from a place of trauma fragmentation, and then they start interacting with energies that are literally there to resonate with the deeper portions of the unconscious mind and bring trauma to the surface to be integrated. Many people within the darker occult community do not understand what black magic actually is and the role that it actually plays, purely because they get caught in the ego traps of needing to be this powerful individual or needing to understand how to cast all of these curses, how to manipulate reality, and all of these different types of things. You know, the early books on black magic, I'm not going to name any names, but there are many books that actually advertise black magic in a way it's like gain control over your reality, gain power over other people, and all of those things. That is what I refer to as the outer layer of this practice. It's like a net that filters out people that aren't actually serious about it. And if you get caught in that net, then you only get caught in very, very much the surface level of what these currents of energy are actually here to do, realistically speaking. And then the other side of the spectrum is obviously the people who view it as purely evil and then avoid it and run in the opposite direction when they hear the term black magic. What black magic actually is basically a catch-all term that refers to the active and conscious utilization of dark matter energy. Dark matter energy is the force of the primordial chaos that exists outside of the multiverse, but has the responsibility to bring chaos to the multiverse in order to assist its continuous process of metamorphosis. Black magic is a force of chaos. It is a chaotic current of energy, or should I say a culmination of various chaotic currents of energy that resonate with the deep unconscious. It all comes back to the human psyche purely because our psyche mirrors the cosmos. The cosmos is made up of the majority of, well, it's made up of mostly dark energy, mostly dark matter energy, and the light matter is just a small fraction within the darkness. We mirror that as well. Okay, our unconscious mind possesses the majority of our psyche and has most of the influence over what actually cultivates our reality, over the experiences that we have, the different dynamics that we find ourselves in, and ultimately what comes into tangible fruition through our physical experience. The primordial chaos, or the dark matter, has the same role. It doesn't meet any boundaries, laws, or regulations. It's completely formless, but is the pure feminine space that is known as the goddess, or some refer to it as the realm of the true gods, purely because it contains the currents of energy that are responsible for cultivating. They dream ideas into being, they dream entire universes into being, creating form from the formlessness in order to define a meaning for itself. So our unconscious mind is much the same. We cultivate from the unconscious mind. We dream our reality into being from our unconscious mind. So when we are actively working with black magic or dark matter energy, we are working with forces that resonate deeply with our unconscious. Black magic is the most powerful form of sorcery. It is the most powerful form of evolution, but it is also the most dangerous as well, purely because you are invoking and working with forces. If you're interacting with the darker currents of energy within the cosmos, you are interacting with currents of energy that are going to hold the keys to various regions within your unconscious mind and are going to take you through a journey of self-development to take you back to your own godhood, to take you back to who you really are before you were born into this multiverse. And who you really are is essentially a product of dark matter energy that doesn't meet any rules or boundaries because you've come from the dark womb, you've come from the dark matter energy, so you don't actually meet any predefined rules or boundaries or regulations other than what you define for yourself. So you've been born into this light matter multiverse, which has predefined laws and regulations, but where you really come from is the womb. You come from the goddess. So when you work with dark matter energy, you're working with energies that have a definitive agenda to deconstruct your sense of self so that you can find who you really are beyond the false constructs that have defined your self-identity. And that is why black magic or black magical alchemy specifically can be a dangerous journey for those who are unprepared, purely because it can create a very thin line between actual magical ascent or alchemical transformation and insanity, realistically speaking, because when the layers of who you thought that you were start to fall away, then you have to embrace the chaos. Okay, your ego lets go of the identities that have been defining its sense of self, and you move into a reality that is much more fluid in nature, much more liquid in nature, understanding that you are going to continuously grow and change once you interact with these darker currents of energy. These darker currents of energy have one goal, and that is to get you to where you need to be as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, and as thoroughly as possible. So when it comes to working with these darker currents, you are interacting with currents of energy that are literally going to deconstruct you, okay? Take you apart in order to build you back up even stronger and more resilient and more in alignment with your truth and authenticity. But because you are literally going to be deconstructing the false layers of your ego, it can be dangerous if you are unprepared for such an endeavor. And to be honest with you, a lot of people who get into the darker occult sciences are not prepared for such an endeavor. Okay, and you can see a lot of the people who are in the occult community are crazy, basically. Like they've kind of lost their mind. They're operating from coping mechanisms all of the time and all of that. Don't get me wrong, there are some amazing dark occult sorcerers out there, many of which I can absolutely vouch for, many of which I am an active fan of and continue to follow and am inspired by a lot of their work. But there are also many who are completely just out of it and have used these types of energies to actually fuel their false self instead of deconstructing it. The issue with black magic is that many people go into it from the surface level. They go into it from a traumatized space. And then what starts to happen is that they go into it from their false self. They go into it to have power. They go into it to have influence over others, influence over the world around them, to curse people, all of that. But all of that is a product of your false self, a product of the false constructs that are encasing your truth. So if you go into a current of energy that literally has the role of deconstructing your false self, but then you're going into it from an intention built from your false self, then that's incredibly dangerous because you're going to essentially be fighting with the process. You're going to be holding on to your false self. You're going to be holding on to who you think you are, holding on to the qualities that you think define you as a person, which is, I need to be powerful, I need to be this powerful sorcerer, I need to have control over my reality. You're going to go into these black magical alchemies and they're going to deconstruct that illusion. If you're working properly with these currents of energy, they are going to deconstruct those illusions and they're going to make you more vulnerable. This is the thing. They're going to open your vulnerability. They're going to force you into a place where you have to be more vulnerable with yourself and you have to be more vulnerable with the world around you. They seduce you into self honesty. Many who are operating from their false self when they go into these darker occult sciences will be in for a nasty shock, or they will continue to hold on to their false self, and that is what causes the potential psychosis later down the line. Okay, when you see these occult sorcerers who, are claiming to have all of this power, but then have got absolutely nothing to show for it within their material world, and they're doing cocaine on the weekends and drinking lots of alcohol and reverting back to these same coping mechanisms. But when you go into these currents of energy on a deeper level and you start engaging with the deeper levels of initiation, you are going to start to become more true to yourself if you go into it with the right intent. So what black magic really is the utilization of dark matter energy, but to really get the most out of it, you have to really understand what dark matter actually does, and it deconstructs. Dark matter is the force of chaos in the universe that meets no boundaries or laws, deconstructs old realities in order for a new order, a new construct to be re-established that is more true and more authentic. So if you're going into black magical practice with a very superficial intention, particularly if you start interacting with the darker occult initiatory systems, such as the Necronomicon, such as the Qliphoth, such as the many other different currents that are out there, then you are going to have all of these things coming to the surface, you're going to experience the literal dissolving of your false self, and it's going to get harder and harder to hold on to your coping mechanisms, and it's going to get harder and harder to hold on to your sense of self that isn't actually your true self. It's just who you want to be, or it's who you think you are, but really what you actually are is something much bigger. And that is what black magic is about, realistically speaking. It is about interacting with your true self and understanding that your true self is not one identity. Your true self is infinite, like the primordial chaos. The primordial chaos is infinite nothingness, infinite dark matter energy, but also infinite potential at the same time. And as a product of the dark matter energy, you are much the same. You are so much more than what any construct, what any rule or regulation or title can define for you. Really interacting with these currents of energy on a deep level is very much about taking yourself on that continuous journey of growth, on that continuous journey of metamorphosis, and actually becoming a better person. If you're going into it with knowledge on how to look at your shadow, knowledge on how to work with trauma, knowledge on realistically what black magic is actually there to do, and you're going into it prepared for such an endeavor, then you will be absolutely fine. Okay, many people do also move into the territory of gatekeeping this stuff. You see it all the time with occult initiation, particularly when it comes to Cliffothic initiation. Many people are like, I've been through the Cliffoth, I've been through the Cliffoth, I've attained all of this self-knowledge, I've got the black diamond, I am the philosopher's stone, and all of those things. But what they're doing is that, okay, you may have been through those initiations, but if you've actually been through those initiations, you will know that the initiation doesn't stop. And you're going to continue to dissolve. You're going to continue to grow as a person. And if you get into those deeper initiatory systems, you're never going to hear the end of it. It's not about getting to the end point. And if you're looking for an end point, black magic is the wrong journey, to be completely honest with you. If you're looking for an end point, something to, attain at the end of it, something solid to attain at the end of it, something that you can then attach to and be like, this is my true self, then it's not the journey for you, because you could get to the end of the entire Cliffoth, you could get to the end of an entire initiatory system, and then as soon as you reach the end of that initiatory system, a whole new journey is going to start, and you'll then realize that that initiatory system was just the preparation for the real work, was just a preparation for something much, much bigger. So many people want to gatekeep these practices as well. I've got something that you don't. I have power that you don't. I have attained a level of ascension that you haven't and won't ever. You won't ever be able to complete occult initiation because you won't be able to go through what I've gone through. Everyone's journey is different. Yeah, everybody's trauma is different. Everybody's blueprint is different. You're not going to have the same experiences with these energies as somebody else. But in order to really get the most out of them, you have to understand how they actually work and function. And they don't work and function specifically to give you everything that you want immediately. They're going to make you work for it, as will any good, solid spirit guide. They're going to make you work for the evolution that you want. Okay, so I would suggest, if you're wanting to get into the darker alchemies, working with demonic spirits, going down the line of different types of initiation into the darker currents, into the currents of dark matter, then doing it from the perspective of evolution is the best way to do it, realistically speaking. When you're focusing on the high magical aspects of it, you're going into it for evolution to better yourself. You are embodying the real currency of the universe, and as you shift into harmony with your true will, which is what magic is all about, then eventually it will leak through to the low magical aspects of your reality as well. Eventually, if you're really doing the work and you're really, you know, going into it for the right reasons, which is to better yourself, then you will experience huge amounts of healing, huge amounts of evolution in realistically, in the grand scheme of things, quite a short period of time. But you will also experience tangible changes within your material reality as well. You will also experience tangible changes in the relationships that you come into contact with. They will be more authentic, more aligned to you. They won't be re-traumatizing. Okay, as well as the financial level. Okay, you will have gone through the necessary work to understand your sense of self-value from the eyes of your true will, at which point you will then understand what your true will is and then start to operate from it. And then when you do that, you are not only aligned to your soul, not only aligned to your true evolutionary path, but you are also going to experience the material changes that you want as well. Okay, so black magic, when you take out all of the ego traps, which is the surface level, the cursing, the getting back on people, the manipulation of reality, all of that plastic, if you're caught in that and you're going into it with that intention, then I hate to say it, but you are caught in that filter that has been specifically put in place to filter out people who are not serious about this energy and serious about what this current of energy is really for. I'm not saying that low magical practices are bad. I'm not saying that, you shouldn't want power. In fact, you should want power, but understand where it's coming from. If you're operating predominantly, from a place of needing to have a particular title of a black magician or a magical adept or a magus or a shaman to define your sense of self-worth, then, going into these currents of energy from an initiatory standpoint, if you're really doing it, is going to deconstruct all of that. And you're going to realize that it actually doesn't matter. None of that matters. All of that is complete plastic. What really matters is your connection to your soul, how connected you are to your true self, how connected you are to your truth and authenticity, how vulnerable and honest you are being with yourself and the world around you, as that is what black magic or black magical alchemy is going to do for you. It's going to make you more vulnerable. It's going to open your heart. You will grow so much as a person. It's unbelievable. Okay. And it is the most powerful form of self-development because it resonates with the deep unconscious, and the deep unconscious is what cultivates reality. So when you interact with darker energies, you will have experiences in your day-to-day life that is a hell of a lot more tangible than what you will experience with, say, light matter energies. Okay, purely because you're working with forces that resonate with your deep unconscious, and your deep unconscious shapes reality. So you will experience a lot of very interesting synchronicities within the world around you when you start interacting with this type of initiation. Okay, so black magic is not a force of evil. It is a very powerful evolutionary technology for your soul, but it can be dangerous if you are going into it from the perspective of your false self, if you are getting caught in that outer layer, which is the ego traps of needing that, low magical side of your reality, needing to curse people, needing to have power over people, needing to get your own back, all of those types of things. It can be dangerous if you are operating from a place of avoiding your shadow when it comes to black magic, because it's contradictory. You're avoiding your shadow, but working with forces that are the literal archetypal energies that are connected to your shadow self, that are connected to the repressed portions of your inner child that they're going to bring to the surface. And then you're going into it trying to bypass your shadow. That's what is dangerous, because your ego has other ideas. Your ego's like, I don't want to look at myself. But then you're interacting with energies trying to be all cool and powerful and edgy. But then you're bringing more trauma up to the surface, and then you're fighting with it. And that is psychosis. Psychosis literally happens when you are in conflict with the different aspects of your psyche. So if you're going into these practices, bringing all of this trauma to the surface, and then you're fighting with it, then that's when you can have trouble still remaining grounded and being connected to your reality, because you're going into this process fighting with your soul, and you are swimming upstream, swimming against the natural flow of the river, the natural flow of the water, the natural flow of your soul. Okay. So, as it's not a force of evil, understand that it is a force that really does have your best interest and wants you to forge your own path, wants you to find your true power, wants you to grow towards your authenticity and make your environment conducive for the evolution of your soul. That is what black magic or black magical alchemy really is about. Okay, the new age has it completely twisted as well. Okay, it's like, oh yeah, black magic, we need to avoid that. Oh yeah, avoid black magic. Oh yeah, no, be careful of those voodoo dolls. Again, completely twisted by Hollywood, completely twisted by the new age. If you know anything about voodoo, you'll know that it's actually a very earthy, quite shamanic religion that doesn't really have much to do with cursing other people. So a lot of these things have been completely blown out of proportion from both the new age communities and the actual darker occult communities as well. Okay, so if you want to go into this type of practice, understand that you are going to be interacting with a form of shadow work that is so deep, so ancient, and incredibly direct and powerful. If you go into it with the right intention, with the right foundation, with knowledge on trauma, and stay grounded throughout the process, and are willing to look at yourself and be honest with yourself and become more vulnerable with yourself and the world around you, then you will be absolutely fine. If you're going into it trying to feed your false self, trying to gain power over everything, trying to gain control over everything, then it is a recipe for disaster, to be honest with you. So I think that is just about everything that I needed to speak about in today's video. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me directly. As I mentioned, I have my Patreon, which has lots of exclusive content relating to this exact subject as well, helping you go through different layers of inner child work, different layers of shadow integration, as well as a premium membership whereby you have more direct access to me and whereby you will have more powerful initiatory technologies shared directly with you. So I will leave that link in the description. But for now, thank you guys. If this video was helpful to you, hit like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.